Hello, this is Tom Brevoort. You are listening to Into the Night, the Moon Knight podcast.
Yes, welcome back, Loony listeners. You are listening to Into the Night, the Moon Knight podcast. This is episode 152. You are with one of the High Priests of Khonshu Rey. Hello. And tonight we have a very different episode. It is based on a new segment called The Other Side of the Moon. So if you have a look up in the night sky, it is a waxing gibbous. And that means we are doing a comic book review discussion with Moon Knight in it, but it's not necessarily a Moon Knight title, hence kind of the other side of the moon. Anyway, I, as mentioned, am your High Priest of Khonshu Rey. Welcome, and with me, a very special guest, no stranger to Loonies or the ITK community. It is the Power of Chad. Chad, welcome.
Hello. How are you?
Yeah, good. Excited about this. This is going to be the maiden episode for The Other Side of the Moon. It's a different kind of look at comics. It kind of gives us a little bit more flexibility to maybe look at comics where, hey, Moon Knight might even be in just like one panel or something, but that's kind of good enough for us to be able to review and discuss. Needless to say, though, this What If issue, and we are doing, I should say, What If Venom Possessed the Punisher, Volume 2, Issue 44 of What If. Needless to say, he does feature a bit in this. I mean, we'll get into it, Chad. Not as, he's not as integral, really, in the whole story, but, hey, he makes an appearance, and that's good enough for us. For listeners as well, the last time you would have heard Chad would have been in episode 143, so nearly 10 episodes ago, in that round table Robin sidekicks revengeance episode with Anthony Sitko and Phil the Drop King. Phil for the top 5 Moon Knight artists. That was a really cool one, Chad. We're going to have to do as you guys mentioned, you have to do a writer's top 5 as well. It's going to be a hard one as well. I mean, the artists that you guys pulled up were all, I think, very good. No, I'm just trying to think. No really big surprises there, except for, actually, I was surprised by Anthony's number 1, taking nothing away from Ron Garney, but Ron Garney is the number 1. I thought that's a pretty big call.
Yeah, but Anthony's got a few issues.
For those who don't know, Anthony's one of the co-hosts for Capes on the Couch, where comic books get counselling. So I'm assuming that's what you're alluding to, Chad.
Yeah.
I'm hoping there's nothing deeper there in Anthony's closet, or so to speak. Anyway, Chad, it's really cool to have you along. Thank you so much again. Chad's waking up at a normal time for yourself, Chad, but not so normal for other people. I believe it's very early morning or very late at night, depending on how you take it. It's about, 4 o'clock in the morning?
Yep.
Thereabouts, give or take a few minutes. But anyway, I'm hoping Chad's mind is like a steel trap for what we have in store, which is, as mentioned, the discussion. As always, though, to kick off the show, just a bit of a shout out to some sponsors. I want to thank our gracious patroonies, as always, the likes of Dustin, Wayne, Justin, Joey, Josh, James, Russell, and Anthony for putting in and for showing their support on Patreon. Very much appreciated. Also, a couple of sponsors: Hello Headphones, empowering gamers to play at their best, and Dreamland Comics from Schaumburg, Illinois, the Superhero Superstore. I'll give you some details towards the end of the show, with discounts that you can find for both of the sponsors. Should you wish to purchase a new headset or a couple of floppies, take your pick, Chad. Take your pick. Anyway, moving on. We're just with a bit of idle chat, Chad. Now, generally, I usually just, we just usually shoot the breeze, ask what we're currently reading as well, which I will do. But there's a couple of other things that I want to just kind of spout out. But first of all, Chad, current reads, anything that you recommend or that you have been reading lately that you would suggest to our fellow loonies?
Lately I've been making my way through the Captain Harlock Dimensional Voyage manga. I'm up to volume 8 now.
Okay, Captain Harlock. Let me just... sorry, Chad, I'm looking down here as I will put this in the notes, because I'm going to put this in the show notes as always. You can check it out if you find it interesting. Chad, I do believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, there is someone floating around in the Moon Knight Corps under a very similar moniker. I do believe... Is that someone also known as Chad, potentially? Or maybe am I wrong? I don't think so.
I'm not sure, man.
You serious? Oh. Anyway, no, we'll not I'll not divulge anything any further. But okay, cool. Captain Harlock, and it's an anime thing, is it, Chad?
Yep.
What is it about for those that don't know, such as myself? What it entails?
It's essentially just a pirate captain, and depending on what's going on in there's several different iterations of it. Like sometimes he's a space captain, sometimes he is a ace aviator in like World War I era. Mm-hmm. Sometimes he's a gunslinger in the West. Sometimes he is a pirate in feudal era Japan. It's basically the same character on like a long... how do I put this? Have you played Assassin's Creed?
No, I know of it, and I think there was a movie, wasn't there? That kind of... Is that the guy with the hood? Yeah.
Well, basically, it's the same family. It's the same stretch of DNA across time.
Oh,
and
okay.
Assassin's Creed basically got that from Captain Harlock.
Ah, right. Cool. Is it gritty? Like, is it quite like graphic and stuff, or is it more swashbuckling, kind of just light adventure?
It's light adventure, but It's got a lot of political overtones, like overthrowing the government and stuff like that.
Okay. Cool. No, sounds interesting as well. I have yet to crack anything in anime or manga, and apologies if I'm using those terms incorrectly. Oh, Chad, I see. Hold the phone for Patroonies that do have the video. I see Chad's wearing... Is that a Venom hoodie? You beauty. Awesome. Cool. Man, that's cool. And very apt, of course, for this episode. Fantastic. Nice one. Anyway, I was just distracted there by the emblem on your chest. Anyway, Chad, any other recommendations, or is that what you're mainly reading?
Just been reading that, and What If Venom Had Possessed the Punisher?
Oh, well, again, that's so fortuitous, because we are going to be discussing that tonight, so I'm glad you read that. Right, well, I mean, I actually haven't been reading that much more than what I'd mentioned last episode anyway. I did finish most of what I was reading, which I mentioned last episode, which was Volume 1 for Masters of the Universe by James Robinson on the DC imprint. I don't know, for some reason I'm kind of lured into now, the toy action figures turned comic book kind of cartoons. So I'm a bit intrigued at the Masters of the Universe. It's a good read. It wasn't what I expected, but it's a massive setup. So after those 6 issues, I'm going to read Volume 2. I'm sure things really kind of pick up steam. The first volume was pretty much about Adam not knowing or realizing he had his memories wiped by Skeletor, that he was He-Man, and that was done because Skeletor obviously wanted to take He-Man out of the picture. Why he didn't kill him, I don't know, like when he could have. But anyway, he just let him, and everyone else, like I'm not sure if you're had you watched the show much, Chad, Masters of the Universe, or?
I watched a lot of the original series that aired.
Yep.
But I didn't really watch a lot of the reimagined one that came out several years ago.
Oh, okay. No, I haven't watched that either. I'm looking forward to the Kevin Smith Netflix reimagining again. That should be cool.
So Henry Rollins, like one of my personal idols,
Yeah.
is going to be in it as Triclops.
Really?
So it's like,
why
yeah.
Triclops? That's a very obscure character, but yeah, for sure. Awesome. Nice one. Oh, I like Henry Rollins too as well. I didn't know that. That's great. Yeah, so I was saying like his other friends, like I think it's Battle Ram. I can't remember their names. It's kind of like a stocky guy that I had the toy where he had spring legs and he's pretty much the Juggernaut head-wise, and he just bashes into things. I think it was Moss Man as well, and anyway, they had their memories wiped as well. So a lot of fun in that one. I'm currently reading up on the origin of the US agent. So reading there's more of them, which I've already read, but I'm currently reading around Captain America 331 to 336. And that's when John Walker takes over the Captain America costume. He gets trained by the government to actually replace Steve Rogers, who they've kind of stepped down as the Captain America. So he hasn't turned into US agent yet, but he's well on the way there. So that's really interesting. I didn't really know the origin of John Walker. So yeah. Are you much into like the characters like Captain America, US Agent? That's yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to seeing Walker personified in what was it? Winter Soldier and
Falcon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that should be good. I can't remember the. It's the son of Kurt Russell, isn't it? Yeah.
And Goldie Hawn.
Yeah, and Goldie Hawn, yeah. Yeah, so that would be interesting. I can't say I've seen him in anything, but...
Really?
Yeah. Has he been around? Has he been doing stuff? What has he been doing? I know he's been doing... He did a zombie thing, didn't he? Or...
Well, zombie vampire thing, Overlord.
Yeah, I've heard of that. But...
And then he was in a episode of Black Mirror. It was like centered on like this horror video game, and it was basically using imprints of his memory.
Was that him? Was he the main guy?
Yeah.
The backpacker.
Yeah.
And that was a great episode, and it all that occurred in like 0.6 of a second or something, right? And
yep.
Oh, that was him. That was good. Okay. I haven't watched all of Black Mirror, but that is one of my, I'd say probably one of my favourite Black Mirror episodes I've seen. I've seen about like only 4 or 5, and I've really enjoyed that one. I love that twist. Oh, okay, he's pretty good. Anyway, it'll be interesting to see. John Walker's a bit on the sassy side and the crass side as well. It'll be I'd imagine a fun and meaty role to do, depending on if they do the take from the comics. He might be totally different in the MCU. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, cool. Apart from stuff that we're reading, Chad, I wanted to also just announce also to the Loonies as well that you may have seen there was an event on, a watch party that had come. Look, it's still in the works. Basically, I put on the post, there was a bit of a lemon. Not many people showed up. A couple of people did. So a big shout out to Christina and her boyfriend. They hung around just for basically for a few moments. Technical difficulties ensued. I think they were doing it off their phone. But anyway, it was a learning experience. I'm keen to do it again. So anyway, I put up on our group page a poll as to, what might make it more amenable for people. Is there a certain time that would appeal to people more? I guess down the track, apart from the obvious, the TV show, is there any particular content that Loonies would love to kind of congregate and watch together? So anyway, I'm just throwing it out there. I do like the idea of it. And potentially as well, it might be a good opportunity for Loonies and ourselves to like record, only if those are happy to, like commentary, like while we watch a show or an episode or a movie. I think it'd be a lot of fun. Anyway, so the poll is up there. Apparently, currently, it's sitting at most votes go for. Surprisingly for me, this is East Coast US time, 10 p.m. weekdays. 10 p.m. onwards weekdays seem to be the most favourable time. yeah, so whatever seems to be the most popular, I will definitely try to work towards. But that's an exciting prospect, so keep your eyes out in the community for that. Also, as well, Chad, just with, again, in keeping with the community, I wanted to give a little shout out to one of the loonies, Joe Porter. He raised this question, and I want your thoughts on Marvel War Table. I guess it just came out, right? The trailers for the new Avengers game. Look, Chad, you're way more of a gamer than I am, so I'm hoping that you've seen it. I've seen bits of it. It looks pretty good. No? Okay. Chad's shaking his head there.
I've been so busy.
Yeah,
I've been
of
doing
course.
these extra classes on top of working, so...
Yeah, sure. And fighting crime, I'm sure, as well, on the streets.
I'm not gonna say.
That's it. I'm not at liberty to. Anyway, so Joe says, I was watching the Marvel Avengers War Table today, and I'm not sure if many people in the community are gamers, but I'm willing to bet our boy will be a playable character, DLC or otherwise. If not next year, then probably later on. Marvel's got to market their characters to get on almost all their platforms to get that sweet cash. Thank you, Joe. Very right as well. I don't know. What do you think, Chad? Is there a prospect of seeing Moon Knight in this War Table Avengers game?
I haven't seen the specifics on the War Table.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anything about it. I know the new Avengers game coming up is supposed to be pretty in depth.
Yes,
but I haven't been following it mainly because I'm shallow as hell and the costumes looked embarrassing.
Okay, excellent. Well, I don't know as well. Look, I think it kind of makes sense that he'd probably be in it. If he's getting a TV show, that's going to kind of draw a lot of focus to the character. He has been at least a West Coast Avenger, so he has been an Avenger. And I think I can't see why not. He's been featured in video games before. I think it's right for him to actually be in War Table, which would be very interesting to see because a few of the trailers have been out and about for those that have seen it. It looks really cool. Just from what I understand, you are kind of drawn into the world with Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, and she kind of, I think she finds the Avengers, something's happened. MODOK is actually a big villain in it. Because there are a few adaptoids in there as well. But yeah, apparently, as you say, it's very in-depth. I did listen to This Week in Marvel, and they were talking about it. One of the guys there, Jesse, who is in charge of the development of the game or something, I think it was Jesse. Anyway, he was saying that stuff like the costumes, there's going to be a whole wardrobe for each of the characters you can choose, and all that sort of pizzazz. Which kind of sounds cool. It's always fun to get your favourite character and to play around with them a bit. But yeah, I reckon it's just watch this space for that. If not, when it releases, definitely around 2022. When the TV show comes about. So yeah, that's my take on it. Anyway, Loonies, just a couple of bits of white noise before we get into our discussion of the comic book. Now, when this episode comes out, unfortunately, the sale would have ended, so I'm hoping you would have seen the posts up on Facebook and in all our social platforms. But there is a Moon Knight sale on Comixology for those that like the digital comics, up to 67% off. It ends this Sunday, the 28th, but this episode will drop around the 1st and 2nd of July, so... hopefully you've made good. By the time you are listening to this, you've made good on some purchases. In particular, one's been highly recommended. I think there's a massive drop in... I think it's the Alex Malee, Brian Michael Bendis run, the volume. So if you haven't read it, and if you've heard all the kerfuffle about it, why not pick it up for a cheap price and see for yourself. Only other bit of Moon Knight news, it's not new news, but it was on our Facebook group, is more details of the Moon Knight Omnibus, which has been banding about, and that is going to be released in January, apparently, towards the end of January 2021. And for those that don't know, look, Unfortunately, it's not Mark Spector Moon Knight, which a lot of people are wanting, because it kind of makes sense. It's a 60-issue run. That could be like a mega omnibus, right? But it's actually tracking it back to the very first appearance, so you get a lot of material that you would have gotten in the Epic collections, which are fantastic collections. I love them. So there's Werewolf by Night, issues 32, 33, Marvel Spotlight 28, 29, Defenders 47 to 50, Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man 22 to 23, Marvel 2-in-1 52, and then you get the Doug Moench, Bill Sienkiewicz run of Moon Knight from 1980, issues 1 to 20. And then plus also there's a Marvel Team Up Annual for Amazing Spider-Man 220, and material from the Hulk magazine 11 to 15, 17, 18, and 20, and finally Marvel Preview of 1975. Proudly, Chad, I think we've covered all of those in the show up to this point. Except, well, not 1 to 20 of Moon Knight by Moench and Sienkiewicz. I think we're up to issue 14 or 15 of that classic run, so we're nearly covering that. But all the other comics prior, I think we've covered in some discussion in some form or another. So if you want the omnibus and want to check out some reviews, check out all our episodes. Chad, I'm sure you've been in some of them as well. I mean, we're talking about, a couple of years back as well. So
I think that's safe to say.
Yeah, I'll definitely. Chad's as you know, always welcome on the show, and you've been on a few times as well to give us your thoughts. A lot of it during the Max Bemis run. We had you for a bit, I remember, but a couple of classic issues as well. There was that one time, Chad, remember? I think we did that classic run from the Hulk magazine, and I think you read the Hulk story as well. And I said, oh no, we're not doing that, but it was, I guess it's good to read the whole thing. So, it was...
Well, I mean, was that the one with the lunar eclipse and Hulk smashes Moon Knight and he just magically shrugs it off?
Yes.
Just what the hell?
Yeah. I believe that was about, Hulk magazine 15 or something, or 17 anyway. Good stuff. Anyway, Chad, how about we just take a quick short break and then we'll get ourselves ready for our discussion, which is The Other Side of the Moon.
The swamp, more than merely a place. It is a churning, seething, bubbling bed of life, of which you are a part. Once you were a man, a chemist named Ted Salas, until one little experiment went somewhat awry. And you changed. The serum that was to have made you a super soldier, combined with the strange forces in the swamp, to make you over into this, a shambling, mindless mockery of your former humanity. The macabre Man-Thing. Man-Thing was created in the early 1970s to capitalize on the growing monster craze, but under writer Steve Gerber it became something quite different. Experimental, surreal, and very, very weird. It was something I loved as a kid, but does it still hold up today, 4 decades after its initial publication? So join me, Paul Matthew Carr, as I attempt to make sense of this cult classic and analyze each issue, putting it in the context of the time it was written and comparing it to the standards of today. And maybe you too can come to love the world's second most famous swamp-based comic book character as much as I do. The Nexus of All Realities, a Man-Thing podcast, a twice-monthly dive into the bizarre.
We Are Venomaniacs is the Venom Site official podcast for all of your symbiote news, reviews, and point of views about Venom-related comics, movies, television, animation, and merchandise. We are available on Podbean, Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, Google Play Music, and YouTube. Join us, won't you?
Yes, welcome back, Loony listeners. You are listening to Into the Night, the Moon Knight podcast. This is episode 152. You are listening to our brand new segment, The Other Side of the Moon, where we will be looking at a comic not directly related to Moon Knight, but he's in there somewhere. And that is What If Volume 2, Issue 44, What If Venom Had Possessed the Punisher. Now, this is available As a floppy, I'm sure a lot of the US listeners can find it in a bargain bin somewhere. It's not particularly pricey. There's nothing seminal that happens in it, so I'm sure you can find it if you look. For those outside of the US, check your local comic book store. Maybe ask them. If not, then third-party sellers over eBay or such, or even Amazon might do it. Anyway, this was published in December 1992, and we have writer Kurt Busiek, penciler and inker Luke McDonnell, colorist Tom Vincent, letterer Janice Chiang, and editor Craig Anderson. Now, what we do, Loonies, for those that haven't heard before, what we'll generally do is give a bare bones, which is a synopsis summarising the comic book issue. And then Chad and I will kind of just expound on some main aspects of writing, art, themes, characterizations, and references to any other runs. We'll just bounce around just as we see kind of fit before we cap it off with a rating out of 10. So to kind of give you a sense, and our thoughts on whether it was a good issue or not. We do have some feedback, Chad, so that's a lot of fun. I didn't actually advertise this too much over the social media, so apologies, Loonies. I'll try to get that in a little earlier so we can get feedback. If you want to leave feedback for the issue, please do so, and we can read it out in the next episode. But I do have a bit of audio feedback from a friend of the show, Drop King Phil. That will be fun to play. We'll play that towards the end. Now, Chad, I actually didn't discuss this with you during the break. I should have.
Shame.
Are you willing to? It's a short synopsis, a short bare bones. Would you be willing to give this a read and let the fair Loonies know what this is about?
Absolutely.
Cool. All right, well, take it away, Chad.
Okay, so this is courtesy of the Wikipedia, or the Wiki Fandompedia thing. Frank Castle was at the church that Peter Parker ditched the Venom symbiote at, and as a result became more violent, powerful, and lethal version of the Punisher, killing Tombstone. Sorry about that, Ray.
I know. I was gutted.
So was he. And the Kingpin. The symbiote began to use Frank's body while he slept, in an effort to take over his body. Well, that's not very good writing. Spider-Man, along with the help of Daredevil and Moon Knight, learned about the symbiote's plans and confronted Frank. From there, he began an internal struggle with the symbiote, and eventually won, by vowing to kill himself and the symbiote if he didn't regain control. The symbiote backed down, and Frank remained in control of it, his discipline intact. At that point, the other heroes let him go, worrying that they'd have bigger worries in the future than have a more powerful Punisher, and they might need his help.
Yes, that was a pretty, dare I say, a pretty average wiki entry by a mysterious person there, Chad, so full credit for making the most of it. But thank you, that gives you the bare bones of this story. Now, what I forgot to mention, I usually always ask, and I'll open it with Chad, overall impressions. Like, before we get into it, how did you feel after you put it down, after you closed the last page? Any thoughts on the characters overall and the story?
The story was pretty straightforward. I liked it. It wasn't bad in any way, really. It was a little bit of that, 90s, cheese, but no, it was good.
Yeah, sorry?
Oh, I was just gonna say that they had a few, callbacks, on the front cover, how it shows Venom, and he's drooling green, very typical. And
yes.
It's I love how in the current run of comics they go ahead and expand on that, and that's basically how the suit gets rid of waste product.
Oh wow, really? That's so cool. Yeah. I think that was the thing, wasn't it, that McFarlane I think introduced, I guess, as well. I mean, he did most of the stuff. I like it sticking on the covers as well, and overall I kind of enjoyed it as well. It was nothing. It was neither here nor there. It was a what if. So there was nothing at stake in the whole scheme of things. It was a nice one and done. It's all self-contained. So generally, I liked it. There were some shortcomings which we'll kind of get to. The art was good. To me, it was a kind of a typical 90s thing as well. I mean, there's a lot of different art in the 90s, but you do get a lot of this sort of art from Luke McDonnell. It was quite decent. What I wanted to say from the cover there, which you can see, and for Patronies who do have the video, the Punisher, you know how they integrated that with the Venom emblem? It reminded me for some reason, and I could be totally wrong with, is it Punisher 2099? He's got this kind of souped up, kind of emblem as well. So I don't know whether there is some sort of symbiote action happening in 2099 with the Punisher, or I could be totally wrong. But it just reminded me of it, the design. Yeah.
No, Punisher 2099, he runs literally on hate.
Oh, okay.
Which is, so bad.
Yeah. But anyway, so, and on the front cover there we also have Daredevil and Spider-Man. No Mooney there, but Mooney does pop up at the end. So yeah, Chad, I guess before let's get into it. First off, any one point that you want to note out first, particular of the story or of the comic book issue?
Honestly, not until later in the comic.
Okay.
Like, the beginning is pretty straightforward. I really like the shadow and the descriptors in this, like, few panels.
Mm-hmm.
Like the shadow reaching over Frank, that's really cool effect.
Yeah.
And then he goes on to describe it as, what was it? Fire and cold steel.
Yeah. It's a good... Yeah, there is some nice writing here by Busiek, just like descriptive writing, and I was impressed with that. It sounds like a simple thing, but it seems so appropriate for... because we've all had it done to us being possessed by a symbiote, right?
Yeah.
But it sounds very, very appropriate for someone that, gets wrapped up in that. It's a good opening, I think, because it sets it straight away. And for those, obviously, who don't know know the history, Eddie Brock was the one at the church after having had his life kind of turned upside down by Spider-Man. He's on his last legs at the church, basically about to end it all, and that's when the symbiote gets him. In this instance, Frank Castle is there instead, lighting candles for his family. Look, I thought going into the writing, I guess, holistic, it was a very simple premise, wasn't it? There's not really much to it. The main draw for this, it seems to be, is that idea of the symbiote possessing Punisher. Other than that, look, he doesn't do anything that he wouldn't do anyway. He's just basically Punisher with a symbiote suit on. He does come across Spidey, and actually that will feed into one of the main theme I thought of this, which is actually, he mentions it a couple of times, staying in control, and it becomes a battle between him and the symbiote, which I guess you can say is the overarching kind of premise for the story. But for me, it that only mentioned a couple of times, and it wasn't made obvious enough in the story, or wasn't put in center of the story. So much of it is just like Frank going from criminal to criminal, killing them. And as you say in the synopsis, Tombstone gets his head bitten off. Kingpin, I think he gets asphyxiated. I think the symbiotes kind of wrap him or something. So you get a few big deaths there with mainstay Marvel villains. But yeah, towards the end even, I mean, I'm just talking about the story, it seems to end in a little bit of a, kind of like a whimper, but up in the air as well. Is that how you kind of saw it?
I mean, yeah, pretty much all of it was reliant on Frank regaining control over the symbiote, and then, like, he got his big deaths in, and that's his deal.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. What I found was kind of weak was that it came down to this ultimatum Frank gave the symbiote in the internal struggle he had. He said, look, I'm either just going to kill both of us, or you follow my orders. It seemed a little too simple. Like, you know, the symbiote that can do all this amazing stuff, like create guns from its arms and shapeshift and everything, I didn't buy it that it actually didn't resist Frank's urges and maybe just try to control him completely, rather than kind of just meekly accept it and just disappear. So it seemed like it wrapped up really quickly. I don't know. So I didn't really buy that kind of ending.
I did, but only in retrospect. Like,
yeah.
This does not seem like classic Venom. It seems like Venom from, like, the modern era. Because the Clintar are supposed to be these, like, benevolent creatures. And, you know, they're supposed to enhance us. And that makes sense to this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, not classic Venom.
But also as well, though, but wasn't the... yeah, okay, that's true. But wasn't the symbiote that became Venom with Eddie Brock, wasn't it like turned mad or something? Or like it was actually like a bit of a psycho Venom? Because it was so angry with Peter Parker and it got fused with Eddie Brock's kind of psychosis or something. And it wasn't your typical Clintar. Yeah. So I think the same probably would have been said here with... They could have really delved into that with Frank's psyche, you know, and how messed up he is. But I guess in the 90s, the Punisher wasn't really explored that thoroughly, you know, as he had been. Yeah, I mean, like Punisher in the 90s was the Punisher wearing the white boots and the gloves, right, and a headband, and he'd just go and shoot people. He wasn't Garth Ennis. That hadn't been done yet. There hadn't been this whole thing about the Punisher actually being a psychotic serial killer, and even if his family and the death of his family was just an excuse, you know how they kind of made it that, like he's a killer anyway. Whereas I think in the 90s it was still very kind of prim and proper. His family was killed and that turned him bad, and you know, that kind of route. But I felt they could have done that, with the Punisher. That would have made this a lot more interesting. What did you think of the introductions of the other characters of the Marvel Universe, like Daredevil, Typhoid Mary, Tombstone, Kingpin? Did they add anything to this for you?
I thought that Moon Knight was kind of like integral to how the story progressed. I mean, everyone was willing to just get on Frank and kill him. And Moon Knight's like, no, hold on a sec.
Yes.
And ultimately that was... I honestly think that if Moon Knight didn't interrupt them, like, he would have just gone into Berserker Rage again. It would have just been symbiote over Frank.
Been more fun, wouldn't it? I mean,
well, there's fun and then there's fun.
But yeah, you're right. That was the one thing, and for Moon Knight's involvement here, I thought that was a Clintar. Anyway, no, it's not. It's
the other.
Sorry for Patronies and for listeners. There was Chad's cat just made a dash, looking up at the night sky, checking out the waxing gibbous. Yes, it is a waxing gibbous, and yes, it is the other side of the moon. Anyway, so what I was mentioning, you're totally right about Moon Knight. His main, I guess, involvement in this was that, basically it was that one panel where he says, you guys are men of science, and he's talking to Daredevil and Spider-Man. I don't know why he thinks they're men of science, you know.
Well, Spider-Man is.
Spider-Man is, I did that. And I had to double take, going, yeah, okay, fair enough, Spider-Man is, but hang on, who's the other guy? Daredevil? What's he, what? Science? Anyway, to be honest, like, no one really, at this point in this canon, like, Daredevil's still a bit of a mystery, right? No one knows about his senses. He's just a guy that is very, you know, nimble and ninja-like. So I don't know where he gets the science from. But anyway, there's that thing, when Moon Knight says, oh, hang on, why not use the visuals? I'm just going to flick over here quickly, just quickly on the thing, just over on the video. here we go. So Frank is basically, towards the end of the comic, he's frozen, right? And because he's having this internal struggle. So he's just on the rooftop with with Spider-Man, Moon Knight, and Daredevil. He's got the symbiote kind of oozing around him. So Moon Knight says, "You two have been around longer than I have, but you're men of science. You trust what you hear, smell, taste. But I'm a creature of mysticism and the moon. I've seen things you haven't. I can't prove it, but believe me when I say that somewhere in there the Punisher's fighting for his freedom, and win or lose, it's all up to him now." Now, I don't know. I totally get where Busiek's going. I think this is a little bit of a reach, bit of a stretch from Moon Knight. I know somewhere that I think anyone can put it two and two together. This guy is like catatonic, just standing still. His eyes might have been rolling back into his head. There seems to be some sort of conflict within, some sort of internal struggle. I don't think you need to be a man of science or a man of mysticism to know that. But anyway, that's Moon Knight's role in this comic. And that's about it, right?
Yeah. Everything else is pretty much reliant on just Frank killing people.
Yeah, pretty much. I found the guns pretty cool as a take from the symbiote. They're more known for the symbiotes making blades and stuff, like you see Carnage and all that. Just a lot of stabby. But I like it, very Punisher-like. But he also has the symbiote kind of nature when he takes on Tombstone and literally just bites his head off. Yeah. As you said, Chad, I didn't really like that. I like Tombstone. He's good. He's a douche, but he's good. It's good to watch. So I don't know. If we go into characterizations, portrayal-wise, for me even as well, look, Moon Knight's a little inconsistent. I think the first thing he says, and I scrutinise this now, every time, Moon Knight's on, I try to say, okay, how is he? He's okay, he's not that bad. He makes a couple of quips, like the first thing he said, "That's the Punisher, he looks taller on TV." Like, he makes all these like little nonsensical things, but he's kind of serious. I guess he's more of the, I don't know, is this consistent for you, Chad? Is he consistent for you?
Except for that little bit about mysticism, like winning out. It's just, everything else seems pretty close, because it's not like he was really going for a quip every panel. True. He was just kind of like he rags on people all the time. He does. But not like he's successful at it.
Yeah. I guess I always kind of, as a starting point, because, a lot of loonies, and myself included, always kind of gravitate towards the Houston run. So I always use that as a yardstick first, and go, yeah, okay, he's definitely not like the Moon Knight in the Houston run. But that is not the definitive Moon Knight for me still. It's a strong one, but it's not. But I always tend to go to that first. So he's not like that. If anything, he would be more like the classic Mensch run, I guess. He does have a bit of a dry humour there in the Mensch run. Still not quippy, but kind of, he's got a little bit of humour in there. And if you look further on, the Bemis run, he's quite, I think he comes up with some smart remarks there. So he's known, he's not known for his humour, but he definitely does give it out. Not as much as Deadpool or Spider-Man, but it's kind of there. In the Mark Spector run, which is where this is around, this is in 1992, he actually does say a few cheesy things, I think, in the Mark Spector run as well. Cheesy, but not, quippy. So, I guess he's consistent enough. Again, there's really not too much of him in this issue to really play off, but he holds his own. Again, he doesn't do too much. He doesn't even throw any darts. He kicks Venom, which is cool, but then
he is pretty renowned for literally just kicking people really hard.
Yeah,
crazy acrobatics and kicking people.
That's true. Well, he's done well there. He does get Frank off guard, but he, talk about, fighting a different weight division. He's done that with Frank, and he gets slammed, but he's okay. He doesn't die or anything, so that's good. How about the other characterizations for you, Chad? With the Punisher, less so with Daredevil because he's hardly in it. Spider-Man, I think Spider-Man was done very well. He's very consistent.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Spider-Man was fighting this enhanced Frank for hours. Like, they describe it as, like, he
Let me get it.
held him toe to toe. It's like, Jesus. Yeah, that's... I mean, Peter Parker is really intense.
Yes.
And the fact that he's able to just pull that off.
That is
really
very
cool.
Yeah, it's very admirable. Even the Watcher, he mentions here, so I'm looking at page 12, Spider-Man is by any standard one of the most skilled rough and tumble fighters in existence. That's a pretty big call from Uatu. Well done. But yeah, he's going up against an alien being and a homicidal friggin' human in Frank. Put them together. So arguably a lot more dangerous even than Eddie Brock and the symbiote. But Spidey seems to hold his own. In it though, realistically, yeah, he was at death's door. He what I found was actually really good. He was there about to be killed by Venom Frank, but it's actually Frank that kind of seizes control again because the symbiote wants to kill Spidey, and you can see there's a shot there on page 13. The mouth is there, but then in the word balloons, it's like, no, Spider-Man is not a target. Spider-Man is not a target. He's a nuisance, not a criminal. He's not a target, and then the mouth closes, and I think that's Frank regaining control over it. So you start to see this this battle between Frank and the symbiote, and actually that leads into what I thought was another really cool part of this story, was when Frank's totally beat right, and he falls asleep, and then he's asleep, but the symbiote kind of uses his body still and like animates him, and he where is it? And he slams Micro. Because Micro's just come in. Where is it? Oh, there it is. So yeah, so page 9 of it, Micro's excitedly coming in, saying, "Look, I found all this info," and he just gets slammed. I thought he gets killed, but he doesn't, thankfully.
That's what I thought too, because it's not a good look for him.
No, the papers are flying everywhere. Back of the head slammed against something. But yeah, that's a creepiness, I think, of the symbiote that came across really well. Like, it's almost like Frank was literally violated there, against his will. He's just having a snooze, having a kip, but he is still taken around. And then what does he do? I think while he's asleep, he attacks. He attacks Spot. So yeah, actually, while Frank is asleep, that's when he and Spider-Man fight. So it's actually. And then Frank wakes up, and that's how he stops the symbiote from killing Spider-Man. I thought that was really cool. That struggle. What did you think of this internal final struggle in Frank's head? Then I'm just shifting across. There's a lot of talk about Frank's history in combat and in Vietnam, but then, yeah.
I think it has a lot of really good art, just like the imagery of huge nightmare spawn type Venom. That's just really, it's a different look at it, and I appreciate it. I like the dark greens, kind of like going for that Vietnam jungle look. And then of course, once again, it feels a lot more like a more modern Venom because the web of Venom, where Venom's in Vietnam.
Yes.
So that's like, I don't know, this seems like it's a tad predictive.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, for sure. It, whether it was intended or not, it does actually echo the more modern run. I'm like you as well. I was just looking. I got to shout out the colorist Tom Vincent because I do like the greens that he uses for his flashback, and with Luke McDonnell's vision of that inner Venom creature that Frank battles. I think that's really cool. He's kind of steaming, and then he morphs in and out and stuff. But as I mentioned before, unfortunately, maybe Kurt Busiek wanted to just wrap it up and figure out, how do I close this out? And it's kind of like, so it becomes like just Frank talking to the Venom symbiote and going, what does he say? It's really simple. Obey my orders, do everything I tell you, and I'll let you live. Don't, and I'll kill you, even if I have to kill myself to get you. So I'm not sure. Maybe I'm thinking again. Maybe that is a decent enough threat, isn't it? I mean, if Frank kills himself, the symbiote would just crawl over to someone else. It won't die, right? Unless actually it has been fully bonded to him, right? Well, when they shoot that sonic gun.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. So what did it say? Yeah, so Daredevil on page 23. It's not working. The symbiote, it must have completely bonded with his body. So maybe that's it, the point of no return. So they're in for the long haul. But yeah. Anything else by the way of, I don't know, by the way of art or themes, Chad? Or writing?
Nah. Well, kind of. On the last page, let's see what. When he's talking with Moon Knight and everyone about, well, you're gonna have to just kill me. It's like, yeah, that's pretty Punisher.
Yeah.
It's like, you're just gonna have to kill me if you're gonna stop me.
Yes.
That's pretty much what it comes down to over and over and over again.
Yeah, actually, I agree. That's a good point. But even further, for what he says, and he goes, and you don't have the guts to kill me. I think that's very Punisher. Like, you know, it's almost like a dare. Like, you can kill me if you want. I don't care. Whatever. But you're not going to do it because you're wusses. You know? Only I can kill people because I'm the Punisher. Kind of hanging around there as well, art-wise. I kind of dig the wings. Again, there's a little bit of... predictive of the Donny Cates run, which we see, and Absolute Carnage and Venom around there. So that was pretty cool to see. It's funny, like this is like 30 years ago, but it's come round back to it as well. So I love it. Just, I guess then, if there's nothing else then, Chad, I just wanted to mention the references to other runs. So this definitely is referencing when Spidey... around the time Spidey wore the symbiote suit, and then he got rid of it, which kind of set things in course for the creation of Venom. So we're looking at back in our reality, or our kind of continuity, Spider-Man's alien costume saga, and that included Amazing Spider-Man 252 to 263, Spectacular Spider-Man 90 to 100, then Marvel Team Up 141 to 150, and then it ends in Web of Spider-Man 1. And this was from May 1984 to 85. And so Web of Spider-Man 1 was that seminal issue where Spidey has the battle with the symbiote because it wants to actually graft onto him, and that's when he goes to that clock tower and kind of uses the bell to like kill it. So this obviously definitely references that run heavily. And also, of course, Secret Wars from 1985, that massive event, which if you read any comics around that year, I guarantee there are so many editor's notes in it, like, check out Secret War. Like, you know, if you want to know what's happened, check out this awesome limited series Secret Wars. So anyway, that references it, and for those who don't know or know, obviously, that's where Spidey gets the symbiote to begin with. So those are the references there. Mm-hmm.
I blame Thor.
Oh, yeah. What? Oh,
I blame
actually,
Thor.
there is something with that, isn't there? I can't remember it entirely.
So basically, Peter Parker's got his suit all like dinged up and whatnot, and he's like going to this room full of like stuff that's supposed to like replenish your energy, hold you over to the next battle, and Thor basically says, use the machine in the corner.
Oh, okay.
Well, there's two machines, and Peter Parker's spider sense doesn't pick up on fucking Venom for some reason.
Yeah, true. Thor Thor's never been a man of details, you know.
Nope.
Go for the head, you know. If he did that back in Infinity War, you know, we wouldn't have to go to Endgame. Anyway, that's another discussion. Oh, I love Endgame, for the record. It's not like I don't want it. It's just that in the course of things, that would have wrapped things up quite neatly. Okay, well then, apart from that, Chad, and look, we had a look at Mooney, fleeting involvement here, but hey, this is the other side of the moon. Apart from that, Chad, let's get to ratings then. So what would you give this? What if Volume 2, Issue 44, what if Venom possessed the Punisher?
I think I'm going to have to go with a 3/4 moon.
Oh,
7.5 out of 10.
Wow, cool.
There's just a lot of little nuances to it, and even though the presentation isn't amazing, it just has a lot of potential for growth.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a really good way to put it. I would 100% agree that there's a lot of potential in this story. I will give it a slightly less. I'll give it a 6 out of 10, and the reason being that is I don't think, and it's not necessarily the writer's fault, I don't think it lives up to that potential. Whether it's just because of the number of pages that we had to kind of constrict the story to, and for it to go through, that probably hindered it. But it's a very appetizing premise of having Venom possess the Punisher. I mean, you let any of the comic book fans know about this, and they generally go, "Oh, cool," because it is a cool little thing. So a 6 out of 10 for me. It was enjoyable. It's not it's not something that I would revisit again and again. Definitely for Moon Knight, it's something I wouldn't need to really feel I'd need to revisit. But I do love the characters in Spidey, Daredevil, Punisher, and Venom. All the characters I love all these characters actually. They're all cool. So, so there you go, Loonies. That is our rating system. Chad with the 3/4 moon. I'll go for a getting small moon, or it's just a waning gibbous there. 6 out of 10. Before we go on to anything else, I guess we've got to go into some night lines here, Chad. I'm going to jump into some feedback. And I don't know why I started. Anyway, and we have a nice bit of audio feedback from friend of the show, Drop King Phil, who Chad, you chatted with in episode 143 about the top 5 Moon Knight artists. Drop King Phil, a good friend of the show, and a great. I'll let him actually plug his show because he does add it in there. So I won't say anything further. Take it away, Phil.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Capes and Lunatics. Wait, we're not doing Capes and Lunatics? Oh, that's right. I do so many shows on the Capes and Lunatics and Capes and Lunatics Sidekicks podcast. Plug. That's right. I agreed to send Ray some feedback for the newest episode of Into the Night. So let's see. What issue did he say they were reviewing? Oh, What If? I haven't read some of these old What Ifs in years. What If, Volume 2, number 44. What If Venom... Ooh, a Venom one. What if Venom had possessed the Punisher? What? Well, that's bloody bonkers. Sorry, my bad Australian accent. Yeah, what if Venom had possessed the Punisher? Yeah, this one's it's a little crazy, but it's kind of tame for a What If, from what I see. Because, it starts with Frank Castle's in the church we're all familiar with, and he bonds with the symbiote right before Eddie Brock walks in, which Brock was, going in to commit suicide, so I'm like, they never call it out here, but I wonder if Brock actually committed suicide in this reality. And of course, we get the whole, Watcher recapping how the original timeline went, like we did in all the What Ifs. Then we see Frank Castle using the symbiote. They disguise himself, his face and everything, so he could easily get close and kill criminals. And then he's like, oh, hey, it has webbing like Spider-Man, but doesn't do guns. So I'm assuming when the symbiote makes guns on its arms, it's shooting pieces of itself. I mean, unless, I don't know if Frank can like load bullets into the symbiote, but yeah. Unless it's just using pieces of itself. And the symbiote's like basically pushing Frank onward and onward. And oh, hey, look, Spider-Man and Daredevil are hearing about this mysterious figure. I think that's going to come back. Oh, and then look, it looks like the symbiote's taking Frank out for action, just like it did with Spider-Man when he was sleeping. It even roughs up Microchip some. Poor Micro. Then we see Spider-Man at the church, just like Amazing Spider-Man 300. He gets attacked by his symbiote. It's about to kill Spider-Man after like an hour battle, but then Punisher wakes up and takes control of it. So what's Spider-Man do? He goes to the Fantastic Four. And I'm glad, Kurt Busiek was writing this. He remembered who the Fantastic Four were at the time as Ben Grimm, Sharon Ventura, Johnny Storm, and Crystal. Seeing Inhuman, Adeline Rising. Yeah. I just love Ben Grimm in this. He's like, yeah, we don't use a lot of those fancy doohickeys since Reed's gone. He's like, oh, just take this Sonic Blaster. Although I guess it's for a good cause. Then we see Microchip and his son basically saying, you're out of control thanks to that thing. And the Punisher's like, no, I'm not. So he's he takes down he kills Tombstone pretty early in his Marvel career. Because I think this is when Tombstone was first appearing in Spectacular Spider-Man. And then he goes for the Kingpin, and he has to battle. Daredevil's teamed up with the Kingpin and Typhoid Mary. But then he grabs the Kingpin, and I guess it almost looks like he just like smashes Kingpin against the ground, but I believe he kills him, so. And then the symbiote's just running amok. It wants to kill Spider-Man, but it can't find him, so it's basically targeting drug dealers and stuff. And then he gets back to the church, and look who's there. Spider-Man, Daredevil, and who is that white figure on the roof there?
Batman.
No, Ray, it's Moon Knight. I'm sorry. I know you wanted it to be Batman, but this is a Marvel book.
Batman.
No, Ray, it's a Marvel book. It's Moon Knight, okay? So, yeah, the three of them saying, help us help you, Punisher. And this, of course, the symbiote flips out. Battle. Spider-Man finally grabs the sonic gun and hits Punisher and the symbiote. But then Punisher pulls a gun, destroys the sonic cannon, and basically goes in his own mind to, have a talk heart-to-heart with the symbiote and basically tell it, he's in control and, help me with my mission. So after Punisher takes control, they take off, and Spider-Man's like, we must have to stop them. And Daredevil says, no, the Kingpin dead. So yes, the Kingpin is dead. There's going to be a gang war. Typhoid, the Arranger, everyone's going to want to take a shot. So I guess what Daredevil's saying is, we need a symbiote-powered Punisher out there. And that's pretty much the issue, which, as I was saying, this was like a somewhat crazy issue.
What the F?
I know, Ray. There's some crazy moments in this thing.
What the F?
Uh-huh. But it's like, it's kind of tame for a what-if issue, because, some of these what-ifs get, like, high body counts and stuff. But here, there were, like, no-name gangsters and drug dealers getting killed. But, for the most part, the only big Marvel names that got killed were Kingpin, Tombstone, and like I said, Eddie Brock may have committed suicide, but again, we got no confirmation on that either way. So, it's a nice issue. This is probably one of the what-ifs that's closest to the original timeline, because really, like I said, except for like Kingpin and Tombstone's deaths, it was basically the original timeline, except Punisher just gets the Venom symbiote. Which I guess, there's more far-reaching changes that, now Spider-Man doesn't have to battle a Venom. But, yeah, overall, I like it. I I think I'm gonna give it a B plus. I forget what that is in Connor Shoe's rating system, but big, high, tall boy or whatever it is. I don't know. But yes, B plus for me. It's great. I had a great time reading this. Ray, congratulations on 150 episodes of Into the Night, and here's to 150 more. All right, until next time. High Priest of Khonshu and all you loonies. This is Phil. Catch ya.
Thank you, Phil. That was Phil, Drop King Phil. As always, he comes home with the goods, baby. That was great. Thank you, Phil, so much. I'm not sure that was me speaking. I don't think I said those words, Phil. I confirm or deny none of that. But no, thank you very much. Yeah, Chad, what do you reckon? The symbiote shooting the bullets. How do you make sense of this? How do you headcanon what happens?
Well, it probably has, I don't know, maybe it's on the same lines as like growing nails and, chemical reactions, like, once again, predictive with various Venom. I mean, what's his face? Sleeper, that's what it is. Oh. He can custom, make chemicals to go ahead and use in the battlefield. And they use that to great effect against the Maker, actually. Well, I was thinking something like that. Chemical proponent, essentially just claws as bullets, and all of a sudden you have gas-operated machine guns.
Yeah. No, I think that's actually good. I was thinking, it's not the symbiote per se that is being shot out, but you're right, it's some sort of substance that is generated from the symbiote. I like the analogy of the fingernails, something like that. It's just like cartilage or whatever. I've just put up onto the screen there. I think, Chad, you also mentioned a bit off air about this thing about the Punisher. It mentions there the suit draws on me to replace the bullets it fires. So it actually draws from Frank Castle. And that's why Frank has to eat more, I guess. Does he mention that, or have I just made that up? He maybe
I think you just made that up.
I did. I think,
but he definitely sleeps more.
He sleeps. Oh yeah, that was it. So he obviously his body has taken its toll from the symbiote, and it has been drawing stuff from him. So, I don't know, Phil. Muscle and the meat. Maybe that's where it's from.
The proof is in the pudding.
The proof is in the pudding. But no, thank you very much, Phil. It's very, and of course, Tombstone. Damn you, Kurt Busiek, for killing him in this, whether it's real or not. Tombstone deserves better. So no, thank you so much, Phil. Very, very cool indeed. Be sure to catch up with Phil as well. I a little plug as well. I co-host with Phil the Scarlet Spider. It's on the Ultimate Spider Cast at the end of every month. Go check it out. We journey through Ben Reilly's life, as a clone. It's pretty cool with Matt Kona, of course. Now, just going to Spectacle here, Chad. I just want to shout out a couple of loonies because I've been mightily impressed in our community. So a big shout out to Sam Wiley. He's one of the loonies in our Facebook group. He's been generating, you've seen this, Chad, haven't you? He's been generating these animations of Moon Knight / memes, I guess, and it's been in the Moon Knight core as well, and it's got Moon Knight souped up and punching. It's either Black Panther, Doctor Strange,
just super hulked out Moon, just really laying it on people.
Yeah, exactly. I love it, Sam. Thank you so much, and I'm glad that the boys over at Moon Knight Core love it too. It's been spread around. Let's get more of them happening. Really cool. Also, a shout out to a good friend, Loony, Chris Kelly, aka CMK7. Beep boop, beep boop. So Chris has just sent me just today, and you will see it, Patroonies. You probably would have noticed it at the beginning of the video, but he's provided me with a new stinger, a new opener to the videos. So the video versions of the podcast, which you can see on YouTube, and the exclusive videos which patroonies are given access to. There's an opening credit sequence that's all done by Chris Kelly. Thank you so much, my good sir. He's added a few nice little bells and whistles there, some street noise. He's added a moon copter. I was excited to see that, so go check it out if you haven't. On YouTube, just for the opener. You don't have to listen to the podcast. Just watch it for the stinger. Also, just a couple of other spectacles. I want to do shameless plugs myself. I guest on the Signal of Doom, a fellow collective podcast, episode 171. It's 4 hours of power, baby. It's 4 hours of me and Dave just shooting the breeze. And if you find that interesting, then go check it out. If it's a little overwhelming, then maybe small chunks. But go check it out. I had a couple of wines. Things were flowing. It was great. It was fun. Also, as well, I get around episode 42 of We Are Venomaniacs. I guest on that, and I talk alongside Orion and Carlos, the hosts over there, about Moon Knight's appearance in Marvel's Spider-Man Season 3, Episode 3 of Maximum Venom. I believe it's called Vengeance of Venom. So that was fun. That was a really fun chat. It was really fun to watch the series with the episode with Moon Knight in there. I learned a few things from the guys about the symbiotes, and it's just what did they say? They said that it's very what do you call it? It's no, the planets aligned, that we actually Chad by coincidence doing a Venom related comic book issue as well. But go check him out. We Are Venomaniacs, episode 42, if you want to hear me ramble again. So anyway, Chad, I think that's about it. That will wrap us. Thank you so much for joining. I can see the light now coming through your window. The sun has now broached the horizon for you. Yeah.
Gross.
What have you got for the rest of the day? You're busy. You're going to work? No.
Work at 10 o'clock tonight.
10 o'clock tonight. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
So I'm up for probably a couple more hours.
Yep.
That's it.
And then and then heading off for a. Yep. Cool. Oh well, no. Thank you again so much for staying up. I hope you get a good rest. Loonies, if Chad, people want to contact you, where can they find you? Where can they find you to ask where you get that cool hoodie from?
I got the hoodie from Merchoid. They have more. Let's see. You can find me in the ITK groups. I'm just Chad Jernigan there. You can find me on Twitter. I go as Angled Time, but mainly with Chad Jernigan.
Mm-hmm.
That's angled, not angled. It's not angeled. Yeah.
Cool. Yep, no worries. We'll drop Chad a line, ask him about his clothing if you need to, ask him about his cat. That's good. So a big thank you once again.
Definitely ask me about my cat.
Next phase, which is episode 153, we have another new segment. It will be a Waning Gibbous, and it will be our Moon Walk. So it will be a read through. Basically, it's like an audio thing of a Moon Knight comic. Now, it's to be confirmed. I don't know which comic it will be. I'll let you know. Look, this is untested waters as well. I just thought this would be a fun thing. We'll see what we do, whether it's just me reading it or I get someone else on, whether I add some sound effects to it just to kind of soup it up at the end. I don't know, but I'll choose a comic. If you'd like a comic, actually, maybe I should put a poll up. If you'd like a particular comic read through that you can read along to, and maybe maybe we'll have commentary throughout it. Let us know, and happy to go with that. Chad, is there anything springing to mind that you'd like as an audio? Think of it like an audio book. It's like you go to bed, you can plug it in, and there's my rambles in your ear. I can read out the whole of What If, Volume 2, Issue 44, What If Venom Possessed the Punisher. I can do that.
Yeah, and I'll just drift off to listen to you every single morning.
Well, I can put people to sleep, so that's my secret power. Something in the wavelength of my voice.
Are you a sleeper?
Actually, I want to know about this sleeper. He sounds pretty cool about being able to.
Really?
Is it from
never
Marvel?
heard of him before?
I know of Sleepwalker. I've never heard of Sleeper.
It's one of the Venom symbiotes.
Yes, yeah. Unfortunately, I don't know too much of the symbiotes outside of Scream, Venom, and Carnage. I haven't gotten really deep into the Venom kind of corner of the universe, but interested.
Basically, he just kind of came into being. What was it, during the Web of Venom series recently with Donny Cates? Mm-hmm. And he's really interesting character.
Is he one of the what was that foundation that created all these Venoms like Scream? Was he one of them as well, or?
No, he's direct thing, but it's like
Offspring.
From back in Venom's history, because there's multiple places that all of a sudden Venom has been before Secret Wars. So
okay.
That whole spiel.
Did he turn up in Absolute Carnage then? Because he would have been targeted. Yeah. Okay, cool. I haven't read all of it. I loved Absolute Carnage. I haven't read all of it. I've got to really go back and read it all. But that's a superb event, I think. But,
yeah.
Anyway, there you go, Loonies. Give it some thought. Let me know. Let's create our first audiobook. I'm excited. With that also, again, you can check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/ITKMoonKnight. Please have a check. Please check it out. See what bonuses that we do have on offer. You too can see the video of Chad and I reviewing and going through the video, going through the comic. It's a lot of fun. As mentioned at the top of the show, Hello Headphones, so if you use the code ITK Moon Knight, you can get 10% off their online store, and for Dreamland Comics, if you use the code MOON, you get 20% off their store as well, so go check them out if you need to stock up on your back issues and such. They do a lot more than that as well. Also, affiliate members of Entertainment Earth, get your action figures through them. Anything that you purchase through the link will help the show too. And finally, we are part of the Collective. So, as I mentioned before, a huge shout out to We Are Venomaniacs and the Signal of Doom, which I had been invited on. They are part of this informal podcast network that Into the Night is part of, and we just really share ideas, prop each other up and get the words out there to hopefully, bring in some listeners and some fans together. So apart from Signal of Doom and We Are Venomaniacs, there's also, as Phil was on the show, Capes and Lunatics and Capes and Lunatics Sidekicks. So check them all out. Finally, you can email us your requested audiobook read at itkmoonnight@gmail.com, or you could visit us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Discord, Get Vocal. We have a website on Libsyn and WordPress, and also on Podchaser. And drop us a review if you can. If you thought, if you think this show's okay, either on Apple Podcasts or Podchaser would be very much appreciated. It helps us get out there a bit more. Once again, Chad, a big thank you. Stay vigilant. Don't. I'm just trying to tie it into the comic that we've just read. Don't kill people with symbiotic guns.
Some people deserve to get dead. Just saying.
Okay, fair enough. And with that, thanks, Chad. Awesome. With that, may Khonshu watch over the denizens of the night. Catch up.
Moon Knight and affiliated characters, stories and events are properties of Marvel Characters Incorporated. Materials used and discussed within the podcast are intended for critique and review purposes only under the fair dealing concept of the current Copyright Act. The views, information or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the copyright owners.